Big weekend, Arsenal v Chelsea, Varane, Man City, Nuno. Another big weekend of action awaits with a London derby taking centre stage, and we'll also find out whether it's going to be Norwich or Manchester City fighting it out with Arsenal at the foot of the table. Game to watch. Arsenal v Chelsea. We all saw the tweets from very clever Twitter accounts called things like Troll Footballer Banter FC or Footy Bants that had noticed Arsenal's upcoming fixtures were a combination of home games and away games which, when shortened to a letter each on a Sky graphic, hilariously spelled out hahaha. Because the fixture list is also laughing at Arsenal like everyone else, you see. Because of Arsenal being rubbish. But tear your eyes away from that hilarious badinage, and really the more eye-catching part of that graphic was the fact that alarmingly inept defeat at newly promoted Brentford is followed by games against Chelsea and Manchester City. There may well be more laughter before Arsenal sort themselves out. They may very well end August bottom of the table, and while this clearly means very little, it's not an ideal start for a manager already under pressure and a club with a quixotic transfer policy which has involved signing perfectly competent players for absolutely eye-watering prices. Last Friday's defeat at Brentford was also notable for some high-profile absences with what is now known to be COVID. Alexander Lacazette is still out, but Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang could return. Even that's not the unequivocal good news for Arsenal it would have been a year ago. Martin Odegaard might be available after Real Madrid changed their mind about changing their mind, and if Arsenal can register him in time he won't have to isolate and can go straight into the team. Oh no, sorry. He's out. It's all very Arsenal, isn't it? The contrast with Chelsea, who could give a second debut to £100 million striker Romelu Lukaku, could hardly be greater. While Arsenal's commitment to banter dictates that them romping to a 3-0 win over their London rivals can't be entirely discounted, and they did beat Chelsea twice last season, the second of them barely 3 months ago at Stamford Bridge, the European champions will really be out to avoid any slip-ups against relegation battlers as they look to mount a sustained title challenge. Team to watch, Manchester City of course. It's technically still possible that City will be rivaling Arsenal for that dreaded bottom at the end of August accolade after opening their title defense with defeat at Spurs. More likely, though, is that it will be their opponents this weekend hoping to avoid that particular fate. Poor old Norwich. Having started the season getting whipped by Liverpool, they now get to face the champions. And after that things only get ever so very slightly easier against Leicester. For now, though, Norwich face the very definition of the thankless task. A trip to Manchester City, who have a point to prove. City weren't really very good against Spurs last weekend, but there's no Japhet Tanganga to make life quite literally impossible for them this time around, and the Canaries are likely to face an afternoon even longer and more arduous than that Liverpool opener. Even without a striker, you'd still expect City to win this one, and win it well, to belatedly get their campaign up and running after a trio of 1-0 defeats. Stick with it, though, Norwich fans. Liverpool, City, Leicester is as tough as it can possibly get to start a season. Things will inevitably get easier after the international break. It's a 6-pointer against Arsenal. Player to watch. Raphael Varane. Manchester United have to expect to play a full part in any title race this season. And while that thrilling demolition of Leeds at their most disastrously Leeds last weekend showed that the attacking side of their game is in full working order, we all know that titles aren't won with such fripperies as goals or assists. Well, they are, obviously, but also with the other stuff. Defending. The arrival of Raphael Varane, unveiled to the United fans ahead of that Leeds game, is one of the summer's more eye-catching bits of work. And the prospect of the former Real Madrid man forging a formidable partnership with Harry Maguire could prove every bit as important to United's cause as all that Pogba and Fernandes showiness. Manager to watch. Nuno Espirito Santo. Nuno will quite rightly point to the Premier League win over Manchester City as more significant than the defeat to Pecos Ferreira in the Europa Conference League. The side was completely different and so too was the occasion. But that defeat in Portugal is still important, not least because Spurs can't afford to pass up any chance to end what will now be a 14-year wait for a trophy, and also because however low-key it may have been, it was a reminder that Nuno and Spurs still have an awful lot to prove. And in many ways, games like this weekend's trip to Nuno's old club Wolves are the ones where manager and club have the most to prove. We knew Nuno could set up a team to frustrate and ultimately derail superior opposition because he did it all the time when he was at Wolves. It would be wrong to compare the City win to superficially similar Spurs wins under Jose Mourinho because this was an altogether more positive and aggressive defensive performance, if that makes a lick of sense. There was none of the inherent negativity and fear that marked such games under Mourinho, even when the tactic worked. But at Spurs, Nuno is going to encounter far more games like this one, or like Pecos on Thursday night, than he did at Wolves. Games where the onus will be on him and his side to make the running and force the pace. If we assume that Harry Kane isn't about to be parachuted straight into the starting side, then Nuno has a superficially straightforward selection decision. None of the starting Zai against City deserve to miss out, and none who started against Pecos deserve to replace them. But even if the personnel are the same, the gameplan will have to be different. Football League game to watch. QPR v Barnsley, tidy little Saturday lunchtime championship game to enjoy here. The only two teams with better championship records than these two in 2021 are both in the Premier League now. Barnsley and QPR finished last season in fine form, with Barnsley's startling second half of the season taking them all the way to the playoffs. QPR's own late surge came too late for that, but they are the ones who have carried that form into the new season, with 2 wins and a draw. Not losing your boss and captain to West Brom helps. European game to watch. Udinese v Juventus. Juventus start the new Serie A season as favourites, but have plenty to prove after scrambling their way to 4th last season. It at least appears that they'll be able to call upon Cristiano Ronaldo for another year after he released a statement distancing himself from any attempt to join Messi in the great exodus of the stars this summer.